My mother uninvited me from her wedding because I look like my dad. My fiancé doesn't want you there. But when my three brothers found out about the betrayal, none of them attended the wedding and left her alone at the altar. I'm 18 years old, just finished high school a few months ago, and honestly, I don't even know where to start with this because I still have trouble believing all of this actually happened. The thing is, my mom is getting married. Well, she already got married, technically, like 2 weeks ago. And I wasn't there. But it's not like I couldn't go or I was sick or anything like that. It's that I was literally uninvited from the wedding. Yeah, you read that right. My own mother uninvited me from her wedding because her fiancé, Steven, feels uncomfortable with me. And when I say this story is a mess, believe me, I'm not exaggerating even a little bit. I guess I should start from the beginning so everything makes sense. My parents got divorced when I was like 6 years old. I don't remember much about it, to be honest. Just that one day my dad didn't live with us anymore, and my mom was angry all the time. I have 3 younger brothers, Jordan, who's 16, Nathan, who's 14, and another younger brother, and we all lived with my mom most of the time. You know, the typical custody arrangement where we were with her during the week and with my dad on weekends or something like that. I'm the only daughter, the only one who looks like my dad physically, according to everyone, and apparently that became a giant problem years later, but at the time I had no idea. My relationship with my mom was never super close, you know? Like, I always felt there was a distance there that I didn't understand. She was much more affectionate with my brothers, especially the youngest, and I always thought maybe it was because they were younger or because I was the only girl and we just didn't connect or something. I told myself it was normal, that all moms have different relationships with each kid, but deep down there was always this little voice telling me something didn't add up. When I tried to talk to her about important things, like really talk about deep stuff, I felt like I was talking to a wall. She'd listen to me but not really listen, you know what I mean? Like physically she was there, but emotionally it was like she was miles away. Like 2 years ago, my mom started dating Steven. At first everything seemed normal. I mean, he'd come to the house, he was polite. My brothers and I treated him well because, well, we wanted my mom to be happy. He wasn't our dad and never was going to be. But we also weren't going to be those awful kids who make life impossible for their mom's new partner. I was like 16 at the time and was into my own things. School, my friends, trying to decide what I was going to do after graduating, so I didn't pay that much attention to my mom's relationship. But looking back, I should have seen it coming. I should have noticed the signs. Steven started spending more and more time at the house, and slowly I started noticing that every time I walked into a room where he was, the atmosphere got weird, like he'd get tense or find an excuse to go somewhere else. At first I thought maybe it was just my imagination, or that he was shy or something, but then he started making comments. Nothing super direct, but things like, "Wow, you really look like your father," or, "You have the same mannerisms as your dad," and he'd say it with a tone that wasn't exactly pleasant. My mom never said anything when he made those comments. She'd just stay quiet or quickly change the subject. Things continued like that for a while. Steven increasingly integrated into our life, my mom increasingly focused on him, and me increasingly feeling like a stranger in my own house. Like a year ago, they announced they were getting married, and we all said congratulations and stuff, because what else were we going to say? My mom seemed happy. Or at least that's what I wanted to believe. And I thought, well, if she's happy, then I guess it's okay. They started planning the wedding, talked about it all the time, and I assumed, obviously, that I was going to be there. I mean, I'm her daughter, right? It never crossed my mind even for a second that it could be different. Everything exploded like 3 months ago. I was at the house, in the kitchen, making myself something to eat, and my mom was in the living room talking on the phone with someone about wedding details. She was talking about the food, the flowers, how many people were going to come, and I was there half listening while making my sandwich. Then I heard her say something about it being adults only at the reception, that they wanted something elegant. And I thought, okay, that makes sense. I mean, my younger brothers aren't going to be at the party until late, but then there's going to be a ceremony before where we'll all be there, right? She finished her call and came to the kitchen, and I took the opportunity to ask her about my dress for the wedding, whether she wanted us to go buy it together or if I could go alone with a friend. Normal things a daughter asks her mom about a wedding. She went quiet for a moment that felt eternal, and then she said, "Ashley, we need to talk about that." She sat down at the kitchen table and I sat across from her. And I swear in that moment something in my stomach twisted because her face, her tone, everything was telling me what was coming wasn't going to be good. She told me that Stephen and she had been talking and that they had decided the wedding was going to be something intimate, just very close people, and that Stephen felt uncomfortable with the idea of me being there. Literally, she told me that he felt uncomfortable with me. I asked her why, what had I done, and she explained to me, with a calm that still makes me furious when I think about it, that it was because I look a lot like my dad, and that my presence reminded Stephen of my mom's previous marriage, and that it generated negative feelings in him that he didn't want to have on his special day. I sat there, unable to process what I had just heard. Was she really telling me I couldn't go to her wedding because my face, literally my face, bothered her fiancé? I told her that was ridiculous, that it wasn't my fault I looked like my dad, that she was my mother, and how could she even consider not inviting me to her wedding for something so absurd? She told me she understood, that she knew it was difficult for me, but that she needed me to understand that this was an important day for her and she wanted everything to be perfect. Perfect. As if my presence was going to ruin her perfect day. Then I asked her about my brothers, and she told me they were going to be there, that Stephen didn't have a problem with them because they didn't look like my dad. I mean, can you believe it? My 3 brothers were going to be at our mom's wedding, but not me, because I had the bad luck of inheriting my dad's face. I told her that wasn't fair, that it didn't make sense, and she just kept repeating that she needed me to be understanding. That when I was older, I would understand. All that garbage adults say when they know they're doing something horrible but don't want to admit it. But wait, because it gets worse. My birthday is at the end of November, and the wedding was planned for November 29th, so basically the day after my birthday. We had talked about doing something small for my birthday. Nothing big, maybe going out to dinner with the family or something, and I had assumed we'd do it on my birthday, and then the next day would be the wedding. But my mom told me they had decided to go on their honeymoon immediately after the wedding, that they had already bought the tickets and everything, so my birthday was going to have to wait until they got back, like in 2 weeks. I told her it was okay, that I understood the wedding was important, but she didn't even seem to register what that meant, that basically my 18th birthday, which is supposed to be important, was going to pass completely unnoticed because it coincided with her wedding and honeymoon plans. That night I couldn't sleep. I stayed awake in my room thinking about everything, about all the years I had spent feeling like the half-daughter, about all the times my mom had prioritized my brothers over me, about all the conversations I had tried to have with her that ended in nothing. And I realized this wasn't new. This wasn't just about Stephen. This was the pattern of my whole life with her. She had never really connected with me, never made the effort to know me or understand me. And now she was willing to exclude me from one of the most important days of her life, because her fiancé couldn't deal with the fact that I exist and look like my dad. The next morning I went downstairs and Stephen was there, having breakfast like nothing. My mom was making coffee, and my brothers were watching TV. I sat at the table and looked at my mom, and I told her we needed to really talk, like actually talk about our relationship, because I felt like she had never made a real effort to connect with me. I told her I felt like I had always been less important than my brothers, like she had never really seen me, and that the wedding thing was just the final confirmation of something I had felt my whole life. Stephen got into the conversation before my mom could respond. He told me I was being dramatic, that my mom loved me and I was making everything about me when it was supposed to be about them and their special day. I told him I wasn't talking to him, that this was between my mom and me, and he stood up and told me that as long as I lived under his roof, under my mom's roof technically, but you know where he was going, I had to respect their decisions and their feelings. My mom said nothing, just stood there with her coffee cup looking at the floor, and that's what hurt the most, that she didn't even defend me. I told Stephen it wasn't his place to get into a conversation between my mom and me, and he basically exploded. He told me if I didn't like how things were, I could leave, that I was already 18 and technically an adult, so nobody was forcing me to stay. My mom still wasn't saying anything, and I looked at her waiting for her to say something, to tell him to calm down, that this was her daughter. But nothing. So I got up, went up to my room, packed the most important things in a backpack, and sent my dad a message telling him I needed him to come get me. My dad arrived in like 20 minutes. And when I came down with my backpack, Stephen was in the living room with his arms crossed and my mom was crying. My brothers were confused. Jordan asked me what was happening, and I told him I'd explain later. but I needed to leave. My dad came in, saw the scene, and asked my mom what had happened. She started explaining her version, that I had been disrespectful to Stephen, that I had made a drama out of nothing, that I didn't understand how difficult all of this was for her. My dad listened to her, then looked at me, and I told him everything. About the wedding, about my birthday, about how she had never really connected with me. My dad got furious. And when I say furious, I mean, I had never seen him like that. He told my mom how dare she exclude her own daughter from her wedding for something so absurd. What kind of mother does that? That she should be defending me, not letting her fiancé kick me out of the house. Stephen tried to get involved, and my dad basically told him to shut up, that this had nothing to do with him, that he was the problem here, not me. We left from there, and I remember in the car my dad told me I didn't have to go back to that house ever again. If I didn't want to, that I could stay with him all the time, that he would always be on my side. The next few days were weird. My brothers would call me and text me asking what was going on, and I explained everything to them. Jordan, the 6-year-old, got super angry when he found out everything. He told me he couldn't believe Mom had done that he wasn't going to go to the wedding either if I wasn't invited. Nathan, the 4-year-old, was more conflicted. He's always been like the peacemaker of the family, and I could tell he was torn between supporting me and not wanting to cause more problems. And my younger brother didn't really understand what was happening, but he knew something was wrong. And my mom called me like 2 days after I left. She didn't apologize for anything that had happened, just told me I needed to come back because my brothers were confused and upset. I told her I wasn't going back, that I was going to stay with my dad, and she started crying, saying I was destroying the family, that I was turning my brothers against her. I told her she had destroyed our relationship long before this, that this was just the moment when I finally saw it clearly. She hung up without saying anything else. A week later, Jordan called me and told me he had talked to Mom about the wedding and that he wasn't going either. He had told her he didn't feel right being part of something where his sister was being excluded that way, that he thought it was horrible and didn't want to support that. My mom apparently became hysterical, told him I had manipulated him, that I was trying to ruin her wedding. All that shit. Nathan also decided he wasn't going, although I could tell it was much harder for him to make that decision because he hates conflict. Even my younger brother said he didn't want to go if his older siblings weren't going. My mom blamed me. Obviously. She sent me like 1,000 messages saying I had turned all her kids against her, that it was my fault her wedding was falling apart, that I was selfish and manipulative and a bunch of other things. I didn't respond to any of those messages because honestly, I didn't have anything to say to her. I hadn't turned anyone against her. My brothers had made their own decisions based on what they believed was right. And if that meant they weren't going to be at her wedding, well, those were the consequences of her actions, not mine. Like 2 weeks before the wedding, my mom showed up at my dad's house. She knocked on the door and my dad opened it, and she asked if she could talk to me. He asked me if I wanted to talk to her, and I said yes. Although honestly, I didn't know what to expect. I went out, and she was on the porch. She looked tired and stressed, and for a second I thought maybe she was finally going to really apologize, that she was going to admit she had been wrong and was going to try to fix things. She told me she understood I was angry, but that I needed to see things from her perspective, that Stephen was important to her and that she deserved to be happy. I told her I had never said she didn't deserve to be happy, but that her happiness shouldn't come at the cost of her relationship with me. She told me maybe after the wedding, when things calmed down, we could go to therapy together or something, try to rebuild our relationship. I asked her if she was inviting me to the wedding, and she went quiet for a long moment and then told me it would be better if I didn't. That Stephen still felt uncomfortable, and she didn't want to start her marriage with that tension. I told her then we had nothing else to talk about. She gave me this speech about how someday, when I was a mother, I would understand about the difficult decisions parents have to make. And I just told her, I hoped I never understood how a mother can exclude her own daughter from something so important for such superficial reasons. She left after that, and we didn't talk again until after the wedding. Stephen messaged me like a week before the wedding. He was telling me all of this was my fault, that I had manipulated my brothers so they wouldn't go, that I was ruining the most important day of my mom's life, and that the least I could do was apologize and convince my brothers to go. I blocked him without responding, because honestly, I didn't have the energy to deal with his garbage. My mom made one last desperate attempt like 3 days before the wedding. She asked my dad to go to the wedding, like as a guest or something. And my dad basically told her she was crazy if she thought he was going to be part of that circus. He told her none of us were going to be there, validating the way she had treated me, and that she needed to accept this was a consequence of her own decisions. She hung up on him. The wedding day arrived. It was November 29th, the day after my birthday, which basically passed without real celebration, beyond my dad taking me to dinner at my favorite restaurant and buying me a small cake. That day I stayed at my dad's house with my 3 brothers. We watched movies, ate pizza, tried to act like it was a normal day, even though we all knew what was happening on the other side of town. Jordan was angry all day. Nathan was quiet and clearly uncomfortable with the whole situation, and my younger brother just wanted to play video games and forget about everything. Like a week after the wedding, I got a message from an unknown number. It was a photo of my mom and Steven at their wedding. They looked happy, her in her white dress and him in his suit, smiling at the camera. There was no text, just the photo. I don't know who sent it to me. Maybe it was my mom from a different number. Maybe it was some family member who was there and thought I should see it. I don't know. I looked at it for a few seconds and then deleted it. I blocked the number and went on with my day. It's been like 2 weeks since the wedding now. And my mom has tried to contact me a couple times. Superficial messages about how we should talk, that she misses her kids, that she wants us to be a family again. But never a real apology. Never an acknowledgement that what she did was wrong. Just this vague desire for things to go back to how they were before, without having to do the real work of repairing the damage she caused. I haven't responded to her, and honestly, I don't know if I will. My brothers haven't talked much with her either. Jordan is still super angry. Nathan is trying to maintain some kind of relationship, but it's difficult. And my younger brother doesn't fully understand what's going on but knows things changed. I guess the saddest part of all this isn't even the wedding. It's realizing that the relationship I thought I had with my mom was never really what I believed it was. I always knew there was distance between us. I always felt something wasn't right. But I told myself it was normal, that that's how some mother-daughter relationships are. But this showed me it wasn't just distance. It was that she never really saw me as a priority, never saw me as someone worth fighting for or defending. She chose a man who basically hates me because I look like my dad over her own daughter, and that says everything I need to know about where I am on her priority list. I'm living with my dad now permanently. Basically, my brothers spend more time here too. Although technically they still have to go to mom's house some days because of the custody agreement, my dad has been amazing through all of this. He's supported me completely, told me I can stay here as long as I need, that he'll fight for full custody of my younger brothers if necessary. He's helped me start looking at colleges, planning my future, things my mom should be doing with me, but isn't. I don't know what's going to happen with my relationship with my mom long term. Part of me, a very small and probably foolish part, still has hope that someday she'll wake up and realize what she did, that she'll give me a real and genuine apology and we can start rebuilding something. But most of me knows that probably won't happen, that she's going to continue with her life with Steven and keep seeing me as the problematic daughter who ruined her perfect wedding. And eventually, I'm going to have to make peace with the fact that my mom just isn't the person I needed her to be. For now, I'm trying to focus on the things I can control. I'm going to start college next year. I'm working part-time to save money. I'm spending time with my brothers and my dad, building the relationships that really matter. Jordan told me a few days ago he was proud of me for standing my ground, for not letting mom make me feel bad for her own decisions, and that meant a lot to me. Nathan is starting to understand the whole situation better, now that he's had time to process it. And although it's still hard for him, I can see he's starting to realize the patterns I had seen for years. I turn 19 inches a year. And honestly, I don't know if my mom is going to be there for that birthday, or for any other important moment of my life after this. And that hurts. I'm not going to lie. It hurts so much to know your own mother is willing to sacrifice her relationship with you for a man who can't even deal with the fact that you exist. But there's also something liberating about finally seeing the situation clearly, about stopping making excuses for her behavior, about stopping blaming myself for the distance that was always there between us. I'm not saying I'm completely okay, because I'm not. There are days when I miss my mom, or rather, I miss the idea of what my mom could have been if things were different. There are days when I wonder what I did wrong, even though rationally I know I didn't do anything wrong. And there are days when I'm just furious, absolutely furious with her for choosing the way she chose. But there are also good days. Days when I feel strong and confident in my decision not to let her treat me that way. Days when I feel grateful for having my dad and my brothers and the people who really value me. So yeah, that's my story. My mom got married without me 2 weeks ago, and honestly, I don't know if I'll ever completely forgive her for that or for everything that led to that moment. But what I do know is I deserve better than what she was, giving me, and that it's okay to walk away from relationships that make me feel less than valuable, even if that relationship is with my own mother. And maybe that's enough for now.